Amity Blythe, oh, Amity Blythe. What is the truth about Amity? What does she really value, and how will she react under pressure? In the cold, dreary year of 2020, the year we are so dang glad to have behind us, there was a noticeable bright spot in this wonderful show, The Owl House, and, above all, in the character of Amity. Introduced as a typical bully, she quickly becomes more than that. She's basically Pacifica Northwest from Gravity Falls if that character's story had had space to breathe. I love Gravity Falls as much as the next person, and I will admit that The Owl House doesn't quite live up to the standards of Gravity Falls, but Pacifica was not planned to be a fully rounded character at the start of that show. She basically only became a fully rounded character because the fans demanded it. Alex Hirsch, the creator of Gravity Falls, admitted as such. It is one of the few, perhaps very few, instances of fans dogpiling people and it actually making the show better. But even though I like the more fully rounded character of Pacifica, it's clear the show didn't really know what to do with her. She wasn't nearly as big a part of the show as Dipper or Mabel or Grunkle Stan or even Ford or the main villain Bill Cipher. She was kind of just off to the side. Amity, however, is front and center. The relationship between her and Luz has become very well received in the fandom, in part because it plays on some old tropes about rivals falling in love, but also because it's genuinely great. It is quite a well-written relationship, and I can't wait to see what the show does with it. Where will it go from here? But unlike the character of Pacifica, who is able to very decisively and definitively reject her parents' influence, Amity's relationship with her parents is much less resolved. Sorry to keep bringing up the Pacifica Northwest comparison, and I swear this will be the last time in the video I'll do so, but in Season 1 of Gravity Falls, Pacifica's hair looks like a bell. This, of course, relates to the bell her parents used to control her and manipulate her. When we see Pacifica again in Season 2, there's a little cut in her hair, or, symbolically, a crack in the bell, demonstrating that her parents' influence over her has lessened from what we saw in Season 1. It's a nice little detail, and it's one I appreciate a lot. So, what would be the equivalent for Amity? Like Pacifica, her hair matters to the plot. It relates back to her character. Amity's natural hair color is brown, but it's dyed green. Why? This is not her choice. Rather, her parents, especially her mother, made her dye her hair green. Thus, the green demonstrates her parents' control over her. Maybe, as the series progresses, and everyone gets older, we'll see more of the brown showing, symbolizing her increasing freedom from her parents. But that hasn't happened yet. Even as she's recognized how her parents have screwed her up, she has not yet demonstrated that she has it within herself to rebel against them. We haven't even seen her interact with her parents in the present day, so how exactly will she react? I doubt she is particularly fond of her parents, considering how they have manipulated her in the past. But how will she rebel? Will she rebel? Amity is a character we feel like we know a lot about at this point, but we really don't. Not yet. We know she's a victim of abuse. We know that she affected this air of arrogance and superiority to everyone else, but in reality she's very lonely and insecure at the start of the series. Because we know these things about Amity, we're more inclined to be sympathetic toward her. It also doesn't hurt her case that she is a crush, as yet unrequited, on the protagonist of the Owl House, Luz Nacida. But we, as of this point, don't know how she is going to respond when her parents try to intrude on the life she is building for herself apart from that old identity. We especially don't know how she will react when her parents discover her feelings toward Luz and try to draw her apart from Luz, because Luz is just some random human who tumbled into their world. Indeed, we don't even know how she is going to react as the danger she's in becomes much more immediate and visceral as the show progresses. From the start of Season 1 to where we are now, we've seen the tension and the intensity of the situations the characters find themselves in escalate enormously, as is the case in a lot of TV shows and books. These fantasy shows and books start simple just so they can introduce you to the characters and just so they can introduce you to the world, but once you are introduced, they ramp up the intensity dramatically. The characters are fighting apocalyptic forces of pure evil and darkness. Will Amity be able to commit herself to the causes of goodness and light, at least in order to protect the person she really loves? Personally, of course, I'd like to think so, but we don't have reason to believe either way at this point. She has not yet been tested, not really. Breaking away from the people she's been friends with since she was a child is a first step, and an important first step, but it's nothing more than that. That's a very low-risk situation, relatively speaking. She might have destroyed her social life at the school, but she was never really that invested in that social life. It wasn't really that important to her. She really was not that invested in her friendships with these people. She only became friends with them in the first place because her parents kind of forced her to. Leaving behind these so-called friends and all their terrible tendencies, and instead becoming friends with Willow and Amity is only a net positive for her personally. But how will she react when she has to face consequences? Conflict, as we know, is going to heat up, no pun intended, in the Boiling Isles, and Amity's parents are two of the most important people on the side of the evil Emperor. It is not going to be easy for Amity going forward. Luz is in quite a bit of danger herself, but she at least has two homes where she can feel at least somewhat safe. The first of these is the home she's known, back on Earth, with her loving mother, and the second is her makeshift home with Ida in the Boiling Isles. In both these homes, she's welcomed and supported. And she also has that plucky, go-getter attitude that allows her to charge into any situation, no matter how dark and no matter how scary, without losing the energy and enthusiasm and verve that really defines her. But Amity doesn't have that. She's different. Amity is relatively quiet and introverted and reserved. As much resentment as she may have toward her parents, they're still her parents. They're still the only guardians she's known. The world of power and influence, and jockeying for position and worldly success, her parents' world, is the only world she's ever known. If her parents act against her, she might have to try and leave for her own sake, and if she does, where will she go? The obvious answer is to say that she'll go to Luz and Ida. And she might, that's true. But that would still be a little uncomfortable for her at first, even considering her crush on Luz. It would be a complete break from everything she's ever known. Will Amity be willing to take that risk? Will she be willing to make that plunge? Now, it might seem, perhaps, that I'm being a little harsh on Amity as a character, but I really do like that character. I think it's well constructed. She's arguably the most interesting character in the show, give or take Ida. I'm really compelled. I want to see where this goes from here. But I'm just acknowledging that even though she might want to rebel against her parents at this point, she might be afraid to do so. She might not be in a headspace where she's comfortable enough that she's willing to take that risk. She might be rightly terrified of the blowback it'll cause. Her parents are extremely powerful people. Now, this isn't going to say that she'll abandon Luz or betray her. She cares about Luz a lot, perhaps even more than she cares about herself. But her parents will pressure her, and she feels so alone and so isolated. So will she be able to stand strong? I hope so, but if she doesn't, I hope we, the fans, don't judge her too harshly. She's in a difficult position. She's under a lot of stress. So thank you all for watching. If you liked what you saw today, don't forget to like and comment and subscribe. Donate to my Patreon if you can and you want to see more videos like this. Keep watching The Owl House. It's a lovely little gem of a show. It's only getting better with time as it grows more and more ambitious. And I'm really interested to see how it develops this relationship between Amity and Luz. It's an interesting bond, and I really want to see where they go with it. So anyway, tune in soon for my next analysis. It will be coming soon. I promise you that. Thank you all again. Adios, comrades.